Hello and welcome back to GoodKnit Kisses. I'm your host, Kristen. Thank you so much for patiently waiting for me today. I took a break last week and intended to do it last week, but I really needed that break. So today we are live going to you about the J.W. Anderson Harry Styles cardigan today. And this cardigan was featured on the Today Show earlier in 2020 and 2020. And we have all been inspired by this. Lots of people have been working on it. I was surprised because I started getting I started getting comments on my YouTube videos for crochet, and all the Harrys were coming. If you don't know who Harry Styles is, he's a vocal artist. He is a singing artist who started with One Direction several years ago. And he is a trendsetter, and people love seeing what he's wearing. And this eclectic and put together cardigan is actually by a designer named J.W. Anderson, who has kindly offered his pattern for all of us to be able to put it together. What's great about this is it's just a patchwork type of cardigan, and there are a lot of different samples in here, so you can learn how to knit your way to make this. And I'm going to kind of walk through his pattern because it's written differently than you may have seen before, so it might be easier for you to do this. And also for someone who's a very beginner who may not have ever picked up a pattern before. And so I want to be able to walk you through, and I'm going to show you how you can put it together, but also or I'm going to walk you through, talk you through how to do that. But also I'm going to tell you different tricks to get this look without necessarily doing everything exactly perfect. And if you want to make it your own, we can totally do that. So I'm going to talk about the crochet stuff, and I'm actually going to show you some crochet stuff at the end. So if you're my crocheters, hang on. I'm going to show you a faster way to work up these squares and also connect them as you go instead of having so much stuff to sew in. And then for the knitters, I'm going to walk you through what all these are. We are going to have links down below. They're in the description right now, although I'm not sure if you'll be able to access them if you're joining us live. So thank you so much for joining us live today. Feel free and comment along and ask questions if you need. I'm going to kind of go through this, and then I will pick up on the questions. So if you ask one now, I'll be able to pick up on that later, and I may cover it. So yeah, so just go ahead and ask away, and I'll see if I can cover that. So be sure and let me know where you guys are from, if you've seen this before, if you're trying to hop on the trend. It's also a good learner one. I will say this because of the different stitch work and learning how to sew things together as well. But also, you don't have to do all these colors that are here. You could do your own color palette. You could do them all in the same color. There is a two-tone one. This one is the crochet version of a houndstooth, and there is the knit version of the houndstooth. And so that is the only two color that's in here. The rest of them is just a patchwork of different colors. And then you put together ribbed sleeves and a collar and the trim on the bottom of the cardigan, and then there's garter stitch tabs that are in here along the edge of the cardigan for buttons, which most people are not buttoning them up, so you don't have to be afraid of that part. So we're going to jump right into the pattern. I'm going to say hi to a couple people who jumped us on live. Boy, I can't talk today. Hey, Franca, hi. Franca and Nono Moody and Angela, hello. And Black Pumpkin Pie. I love pumpkin pie. Hey, Jay, good morning. And Franca says afternoon there. She knits and crochets, but crochet needs more improvement. Desperately need help with the ribbing. Okay, Sarah, I got you. If you are, if you're joining me for crochet at the very end, I'm going to show you how to get the ribbing look. This is crochet. Look, check it out. So if you want to get a really nice ribbing that has that stretch to it, I'm going to help you out. So I'm going to show you how to do a 1x1. We can also do a 2x2. Here's the look of a 2x2. So it's got those columns, but these are actually crochet. It looks like knit. And then I have a way of making that garter stitch look. It's not reversible, but this is a crochet version. So if you want to make this button band here, you can totally do that. All right, so we're gonna dive into the pattern. We'll have the link down below to where to get it. So thank you so much to JW Anderson, who supplied the pattern for everyone to be able to do. If you want to get your hands on an actual knit cardigan, then you can actually purchase it from them at their website, but they're about $1,500. So if you want to do that, but obviously you'll be spending your time on it if you're not purchasing one and you're just getting the yarn. So what's good about this project starting off is it's very colorful, very basic in the main colors. You can change them up. The yarn here is a super bulky weight yarn, but I'm going to show you a thing before we really start. This one here and this one here, if you only have the thinner yarn that's labeled as a number 4 medium weight yarn, both of these, I pulled 3 strands from one in order to get the bulk up. So if you want to get it bulky, but you can only afford or you can only find or have this right here with 3 strands, you can totally do it. And we will have a link down below to how to do this method where you can grab a ball of yarn and pull it from the end and grab 3 things from one. The video that I'm using, I did it with a crochet hook, but it doesn't really matter what tool you use. You can use it on crochet or knitting. And by the way, if you are a loom knitter, I showed and talked about how to knit it on a knitting loom last week, and we went through the patterns. So be sure and check out that video for that. So you won't find any information in here for that, because I'm already going to talk about knitting and crochet here, and loom knitters needed some other transitions or some other conversions. Okay, there we go. I'm going to dive into the pattern. Okay, so first page, generally on patterns, what you want to do is read through the whole thing. You may find it very confusing when it's a longer pattern, just kind of walking around this. You want to look at the columns and the way they read on this pattern. You're going to read down this column first and then jump over and read here. If you go back and forth, it's easy to skip and miss something. So let's just kind of cover it. It's a striking patchwork cardigan that introduces a relative newcomer to various hand knitting stitches. That means if you're a newbie, you can do this. From simple garter stitch through lovely textured moss stitches to colorful stranded technique featuring a houndstooth pattern. Notice it says houndstooth. It doesn't say Jacquard. Later on, it uses the word Jacquard, and I just want you to notice that it says houndstooth up here. We've provided you with a houndstooth pattern in crochet and knit, and I already have a tutorial on that we did a few weeks ago on our channel, so be sure and get that down below. So that won't be in this one, but we have a real working tutorial for those. And then it's knitted in manageable pieces, which are then sewn together and makes a great project for knitting in the park. So the original pattern, what it does is it works these long panels this way. So you have these squares and you work a square and then you add on the next color and work that, add on the next and work that, and then you stitch together all the panels. But some people, when they're doing on their own, they decide, oh, I want to make all the yellow first and all the red first and that kind of thing, and then sew them together. That's a lot more sewing effort. So if you don't mind doing that, you can totally do that. But I would suggest just adding them on as you go. Here's an example. I know I'm jumping, but I want to give you some visuals because I know we like that. This is a crochet version. It's just solid. So if you really just want to get up and running and get this done, you could totally even knit stockinette and work your color in black or whatever's first on your panel, then work your green. You just add in your color and weave in the tails as you go, or you can even leave them hanging, and I'll tell you why later. And then work your next color and then add on your next, and then later on you're going to seam them up along the sides. This one right here, here's an example. One of the front panels looks like this. It starts with the black, goes to the green, goes to the orange, and then it does a solid red, and then a houndstooth, and then this yellow. And so you can see how you would end up having to sew these together and these together, and I would rather not do all that sewing. I don't know about you, but that's not what I want to do. So I by the way, I've also included some links down below for how to sew them together in seaming. So you can just go click on the video you want rather than include all of that in this video, because it would be a lot. And so you can just reference this one. I would just bookmark this video here. And the other thing is, if you want to just knit it in garter stitch or stocking knit, garter stitch is going to be easier for knitters, and they already know what I'm talking about. It looks like kind of like this one. I don't have a garter stitch one here with me, but I do have a video of how to seam garter stitch up really fast and easy, because we did a blanket that way. So you'll be a step ahead to do that. Okay, so moving on, I just wanted you to see that main construction here as we're referring to it. Beginner or intermediate level. One size. Okay, so it works with centimeters instead of saying inches. Okay, so we're working with the metric system here. So you can convert this 84 centimeters is the flat body width, and there's conversion calculators online if you need it. The total body length is 60 centimeters, and the sleeve length is 48 centimeters. You can solve that by either making these the same size that it recommends, or you can make them a little bit bigger and kind of get a little bit bigger of a, if you want to do the math on it, you can get it to the right size, or you can just make the patches a little bit larger if you need to make it that way for yourself. Tension. Okay, this is how tight or loose your stitches are. 18 stitches measures 14 centimeters. It's about 5.5 inches. Okay, so 18 stitches is about 5.5 inches using an 8mm needle and super chunky yarn. For the US, that's a super bulky weight 6 yarn, and then the 8mm needles, I can't remember what the US number is on it. I'm using a furls hook on this crochet, and this is an M. And then I want to say this is an 8mm needle, and it's a US 11. So this is my needle. And yes, I'm working circulars, but you can work a flat panel back and forth, or you can use your just regular straight needles. If you're new to knitting, the reason why I like to use these is because I can work back and forth on a flat panel, and then when I need to take a break, I can pull my knitting to the middle, and this cord kind of just holds it there, and I don't have to worry about it falling off or dropping stitches, and I just find it nice and light to hold on to. So that's just a quickie little tip. Materials, the super chunky weight yarn or super bulky weight, that's based on 90 meters in length per 100 grams. What that means is there is a ball of yarn that weighs 100 grams, and it's 90 meters, and you can convert that to yards. And then when you're trying to figure out how much yardage you need, they're using 4 100-gram balls. So if you have a ball that's 100 grams of that super bulky weight yarn, you can base it on that. But the more accurate way to do it is to say, okay, how many yards is 90 meters? And then you need times 4 of that. And then you look at your yarn label and see how many yards is in that. And then you take your big number and divide it by that little number, and you know how many of that red or black or orange or yellow or green or blue that you need. Okay. You need 4 red, 4 black, 3 orange, 3 yellow, 3 green, and 1 blue. And then this Aran weight yarn, 3 100-gram balls of red, you can use like a 3 or really a 4 weight yarn, medium weight yarn, like Super Saver, Red Heart Super Saver, stuff like that. And then right here is you need 6 2-centimeter black buttons, and that's if you're going to be using the buttons to button it up. And some people are even leaving them off, and they're just having the blue accent there, and then even leaving the buttons off. Or you can superficially you can superficially sew the buttons on, and they don't have to go into a hole if that's what you want. Okay. And then you also need a, excuse me, a pair of 8mm knitting needles for the patchwork. So that's these needles here I went over, or you need your crochet hook. And then a pair of 4mm needles for the ribs. So you're using a smaller, a smaller needle to make the ribs, and that makes it nice and tight. And a set of chunky knitter's pins and knitter's needle for sewing seams. What that is that's like a tapestry needle, a wide-eyed tapestry needle. I've got my random bag here of all my things. I should have pulled this out, but let's see if I've got all my things in here, and now I can't grab it on camera. I shouldn't have even come over here. Oh, but we're being real today. Okay, so anyway, you're gonna want to grab, here's a plastic version of one. Okay, so you just need a tapestry needle. This one right here is super big. When I say wide-eyed tapestry needle, this is a really big end one for putting those big ends through. And Clover has one. That's the one I was trying to find. Clover has one. I think we have it on our, it's either Clover or Chibi, and I may have this on our Amazon store. And I really like this one. It has a really big wide-eyed needle on it. You can see that. And then it has a bent end on it, and you can get really into those ends. Okay, so now that I've wrecked my thing here. Okay, let me put this away. Okay. So that is what that means, chunky knitter's pins, and then a sewing needle for the seams. The sewing needle is like the smaller one, so when you want to put these buttons in, okay, that's what that's for. All right, then your abbreviations is just covering what you need. You got knit and purl abbreviations, ST for stitch, or with S for stitches. Right side, wrong side. If you're a knitter, you'll want to know that. The crocheters aren't going to really need to know that right now, but it's just what's the better looking side. The wrong side, sometimes we knit the opposite stitch on the back side, so that on the right side it looks correct. And then you can kind of go through these and see what it means. YFWD means bring the yarn between the needles in front of the work. Knit 2 together is K2 tog. You're just decreasing the stitches by 1. Knit 1 below. I've already done this stitch in the sweater that we did recently. It's a textured stitch, and you're literally just working the needle in the stitch down below it, just for that one stitch. And it's pretty simple. It just ends up putting 2 loops kind of pushed downward on the back of your work. And then SL1 is slipping the stitch, and when you slip the stitch, you always slip it like straight across. It's actually purlwise, so if the stitch is here, you're just lifting it up and putting it right over here. You're not twisting it or anything like that, unless it said slipping knitwise, which it's not doing it in here, so it's the simplest version. Okay, this is the overview. You can see this cardigan. They make some really nice little drawings. It's brighter looking in person. It may look dark on the screen right now, but you can see there's multiple panels going up. And then throughout here, they'll give, in this pattern, they'll give what you need for the right front or the left front or the back or the sleeves. And so it's a really nice little overview. And then all the stitches are worked over 18 stitches, or all the stitch patterns. At the beginning of the panel, cast on 18 stitches. When the square measures 14 centimeters in length, which is about 5.5 inches, follow the charts for the next stitch pattern to form the panel. There is simple shoulder and neck shaping at the top of the panels for back and front, and the panels are sewn together to create the garment pieces. And then Nola Bente, or anyway, NB, it's a special note: leave 8 centimeter tails throughout when you cast on and change color. Do not darn, but follow instructions to the makeup section to form small tassels. What that is they want you to leave these little tails on so that when they're together, they end up getting like just simply, they're just taking it and tying it together. and making a knot, and then you end up cutting them, and then they just stay out and they're frayed looking. If you've ever seen an old-fashioned quilt, you'll see things like that. So it's actually on the front. It has this little fuzzy look to it, and if you don't like that look, then don't do that. You can weave the tails in. So if I was doing it, I would be weaving the tails in myself. So if you want to do it, do it. If you don't, don't. So all right, let's go to the next page. I'm gonna see if I have any questions. Please save this live stream. Yes, Beza, I am saving the live stream. Some of my squares are crooked and they have no equal. Haha, I guess I'll have to redo some of them. Oops. Yeah, Bull Black Pumpkin, yeah, or sorry, I said the name wrong. Yeah, I mean, I would redo them to make them straight. If they're way off, if it's off by stitch, you could probably catch it in the back, but I'm always one for redo it and fix it so that you learn from your mistakes. Franca says sewing fills me with dread. Oh, good gravy. I know what you mean. Totally know what you mean. Let's see. And yeah, by the way, I do have beginner tutorials for knitting and crochet, and they're down at the links below, and you'll be able to get to them later. We have a ton of links that we're providing for you guys. So just look at the sections for knitting or crochet, and I think we also put a thing for loom knitting. And again, if you're just joining us, we have another video. We went through this for the loom knitter specifically because I had to convert some of these stitches. So stick with me if you are a crocheter, because we are going to talk more about how to make up some quick squares. A lot of people are using single crochet, and I recommend half double crochet. And yeah, so definitely stick with me and I'll show you that and the ribbing and stuff. Okay, so I know this is hard to see because it's black. So I did mine in navy. I don't even know if you can see it here, but this stitch right here that's real nubby, that's this one. And if you decide, ooh, I like that stitch and I want to do it for all of them, you can. If you want to make the moss stitch, which is pretty darn simple, if you want to make that your main stitch pattern and then only change it up when you get to the Jacquard part, or you can do the houndstooth, then you can totally do that. I'm just going to go over what these stitch patterns are. So imagine you're casting on 18 stitches. You're going to do that for all of these. If you cast on and make the first one and it's not 5.5 inches wide, then you can change that number, change it to 16 or change it to 20 and see what that looks like. I'm just giving you an overview right here on sizes first for a moment. If you need to get it to where the stitches, so let's say it's smaller than the 14 centimeters or smaller than the 5.5 inches, then you're going to need to add stitches. Okay. If you, if the stitch, if it's, bigger than that, you're going to need to take away. So it's a multiple of 2, but when you get down to this section down here, if you do my houndstooth version of this Jacquard, then you're going to need a multiple of 4 stitches. And so even if it's just off a little bit from your other ones, it's still fine. It'll still sew together and stretch out, and it's fine. But it needs a it needs 4 stitches on there. Okay, let me see if I got any questions I need before I start talking about these individually. Hang on, I'm scrolling through. Neutral colors, yeah. So Gwendolyn, it's a great question from Albuquerque. He says she's thinking of making the cardigan, but in neutral colors, maybe black and white. She knit and crochets, and crochet has helped the continental knitter. That's great, yeah, for sure. You can do that in your own colors and everything. I've seen a girl who did hers, and there were like a bunch of different blues and creams, and it looked fantastic. So check that out. Yeah, check out different color palettes. Okay, so let's zoom in. The first square, which is black, is the moss stitch. You're going to knit 1 and purl 1 and repeat all the way to the end. Then the next row, you're going to purl 1 and knit 1 and repeat to the end. And then you just keep repeating until you get to 14 centimeters and then change for the next color. Okay, so if you're going to connect them, which is what this wants you to do, and you just add on your next color when you work it, if you want the if you want it to be a pretty color change here, and like this is supposed to be the right side, then if you're on, it doesn't really matter on this one, but if your first row is knit across and that knitting row takes place on a purl side, when you flip it over, you're going to get a little bit, a color blip come through, because the opposite of a knit is a purl, and it will pop through that other color here. So make sure when you start color changing, if your 5.5 inches doesn't come through on the right row, you may want to, if you're turned around and you're working on the wrong side row, go ahead and do the color change in a purl, so that when you flip it over on this side, it will look pretty. I know I'm showing crochet here, but so let's say if I was working this right here, and I'm starting my this row here. This is a stocking knit, where we want all knits on the right row, and you have just finished 14 stitches on this one, or I mean 14 centimeters, and you start on the right side row on this one, then you'll be totally fine. Then when you get to the next one, if you end at 14 centimeters and you're on a right side row when you end it, when you turn over to start the next one, make sure that you start the next one with a purl row, so that when you flip it around, it will look nice and clean. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's just a note on color changing. And okay, so for the knitters, then the double moss stitch is, and by the way, when you do it like this, you don't have to do all the extra binding off. So if you'll just keep connecting the panels as you need to go, then you don't have to worry about binding off, which can be kind of a pain. Oh my gosh, and my Instagram alerts are going crazy right now. Okay, so well, before I move on, so the black moss stitch, you see it go right into the double moss stitch, which is yellow. This is not necessarily the order that you're going to do it. You're going to want to look at the diagrams for the panel you're going to work. So it doesn't always go from black to yellow to burnt orange. It doesn't always do that. Okay, so the yellow, oh my gosh, I put on my do not disturb and all these alerts are coming up. The double moss stitch, look at this part carefully. It says rows 1 and 2, you're going to knit purl across all the way to the end. But then after you do row 2, row 3 and 4 is purl knit from the end. So, or to the end. So you're going to get this look here. Okay. And then, actually I've got it upside down. So it looks like this, and you can see that I have taken a stitch marker and I've put this as the right side, so that when I put on my next one, I can tell to myself when I'm in a hurry which is the right side or wrong side when I start adding in the other panels, so I don't have that little color blip thing. Okay, and so that's the yellow. And then the burnt orange, if you're familiar with knitting at all, you're just knitting every row, and then it will become the this. Okay, it will become this garter stitch that has that, you know, stretch and just classic look. Okay, we're on page 3. And then the reverse B stitch. This one is so cute. I love this one. Okay, so row 1 is oh, let me just go back. Let me just address what someone just said. Okay, can you consider the idea? Oh, can you consider an idea of give away this cardigan international? I am not making this cardigan. Let me be clear. I'm not making this cardigan. The pattern is free for you guys. I've made like 2 sweaters this year, and I'm ready to move on to my next thing, but I'm doing this for all the Harrys out there that need some help, and anybody who just wants to learn these stitches. You can totally do this though, and I'm going to give you some information on crocheting at the end of the video, and actually hands-on stuff for the crocheters. Beza says it's really expensive to crochet this because yarns are really expensive, and for this could really be too much yarn. Yeah, So you can use this one. Remember what I said about pulling the 3 from 1. So you can get the smaller weight yarn, which tends to be much less expensive. Okay. It's a better budget, and you can work on this one. And I definitely would add them as you go. Okay. And do that. So pull 3 strands from 1. You can get the bulky that you need. Okay. Or the chunky. All right, so the green reverse V-stitch, that's this one here, okay? This is what it looks like on the right side. Really pretty. Oh, you're welcome, Besa. And then the back is this way. And I love the back too. Like, I actually kind of like the back even more. But it has this look to it. See, you can see kind of the V stitches here. All right, and we'll have a link below to all the links that we talked about. Well, in the video description, you just open up the box and you'll see a ton of links. While we're live, you may not be able to access it, but you will get it later after this. All right, row 1, reverse V-stitch, you're going to knit. And notice it says RS, or right side. When you see that and you get a couple rows done, you could go ahead and put a stitch marker, like one that locks, you know, see one of these little guys? Lock it in. And then you'll know which is the right side, so in case you get confused. Row 2, you're going to knit 1, and then you're going to knit 1 below. So you take the next stitch on there, and then you just go right into the stitch below it, and then you repeat, knit 1 below, knit 1, knit 1 below. I did the knit 1 below on the easygoing knit cardigan that we did earlier in the year, in the spring. And then row 3, oh, I'm sorry. And then you repeat that across until there's 2 stitches left, and then you knit both of those stitches. Okay, so individually, knit 1 and then knit the second one. Then row 3 is just like row 1 on the right side, you're knitting. And then row 4, which is you're on the wrong side, you're going to knit 2. See how we had ended on knit 2 there? Now we're doing the opposite. We're going to knit 2, and then we knit 1 below, knit 1, and then you repeat these 2. You don't repeat this. You knit 1 below, knit 1, knit 1 below, knit 1 until you reach the end and there's no more stitches. And then you're going to repeat all 4 of these rows. And it says repeat 4 rows. You're not repeating row 4. You're repeating all 4 rows until you get to that 5.5 inches or 14 centimeters. And then you change to the next stitch pattern and follow the instructions for the front and back shoulder shaping. Okay. So down here, okay, so this one I have a big opinion of. The red jersey slip stitch. What this is if you've ever heard of stocking stitch or stockinette, it's the same thing. It's just all knit stitches showing on the right side, and it rolls, you know, like it has this curl to it. And then when it's stitched together, it's fine, or you can block it, and I've got videos on how to block. But you can sew it together. The only difference is, see, it says slip stitch. Okay, so row 3, you're doing this knit 1 and slip 1. That's where you're just moving a stitch. You're not actually working it and moving it over to your other needle. And then you repeat those until the last 2 stitches, and then knit them, and then you purl. Now, the first time I did this one, I did the first 4 rows right, but then it says repeat rows 3 and 4 until the section measures the 5.5 inches. But what I did is I repeated rows 1 through 4, and I did not repeat 3 and 4. So yours is going to look a little bit different from mine. I'll show you what the back looks like to show you what a slipped row looks like, but you'll have twice as many slip rows because you're going to be slipping every other row. Now, I'm going to show you my sample, and you'll see why I say it. You could just knit a row, purl a row, knit a row, purl a row, and then have a regular stockinette and don't worry about the slipping. And I'll show you why. Let's look at this sample. Okay, this looks like a regular stockinette. Okay, all knit stitches. When I pull it, you can see a little bit of a grid, like a puckering. Do you see that? Okay, that's because on the back, that's the slip stitches, okay? See those? But I did mine every 4 rows instead of every 2 rows, and so yours would have another line in between. It really doesn't make much of a difference. It really doesn't. It kind of speeds up the work and it kind of saves a little bit of yarn. So if you want to do it that way, I get it. If you want to save some. And by the way, my samples are way too big. I just made these so that you could really see the stitches. So that's totally a choice for you. And again, you could do this stitch for all of them if you wanted to. Okay, because in the end, there's going to be some ribbing added for the collar and the end of the sleeve and that kind of thing. And so you won't have to worry about any kind of rolling. All right. And then you could just patchwork it in colors. Or like I said, you could do a garter stitch. So I'm trying to kind of throw in some stuff here if you're trying to save on time or energy or or not do these extra stitches. But I would encourage you to learn these stitches, especially that one, because it's really pretty. Okay, so here's the one that lots of people are substituting. You can totally have fun and make this your own, whatever you want to do, but this is what the original intent of the designer was. Okay, so the red and black is used to make a Jacquard. It's what's called a fair isle, and it holds the yarn in the back. Let me find my sample. It basically, you're holding the yarn in the back and it makes a pattern in the front. You're working with two colors at the same time. The Jacquard is the larger stitch pattern that you see here. The one I did over here, it works with only 4 rows at a time, and this one works with 7 rows at a time. It's very specific, and when you read charts, you start in the bottom right and you go all the way over, and then you go up to the even row and work your way back, and so on until you get to the end. Well, when you end on the 7th row here, there's no 8th row bringing you back all the way. You have a couple of choices. The way the designer originally intended when I went and looked at their video that they have, and it's not a regular type of tutorial video, just so you know, what they actually said in there, they intended for you to basically go back down here and work in the opposite direction than you normally would for the next set of 7 rows. And then when you get to the next set of 7 rows, then you go back to this. So to me, that's a little confusing. I did see another girl who I thought her Jacquard looked better than theirs. And what she did is she, on the 8th row here, or she inserted an 8th row, and she just worked solid red all the way back to the beginning and then did it. Now, because I keep carrying my yarns all the way across, I think I would have to probably cut this dark yarn before doing that, but that's certainly a choice you can do. Or you can save yourself some time and use 16 or 20 stitches for this 4 stitch and 4 row repeat and make this one, which is a cool alternate. Okay, so that video I've totally done separate. It's ready for you. You can click on that for either knit or crochet or in Loom Knit. Loom Knit. Sorry, I said that funny. Okay. So let me know if you have any questions on that section. I'm going to move over. Let's see, Nicole says, I've already finished 3 colors with all single crochets. I'm really considering making it again using the different stitches because somebody helped me decide. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna show you half double crochet. This is what half double looks like. So it's gonna be a little bit more airy than this single crochet, but it works up faster. So you might enjoy that. Okay, so this is what I meant about the diagrams. So now we're looking at just the back. Okay, so I'm going to spend more time on just the back, but I'm not going to do it so much on the other panels, laying it all out to you, but because they kind of lay out the same. There's a little key that'll tell you the color and what they mean. This little funky symbol here is normally used for something else, but they're using that to mean this is the multicolored panel. Okay. So what you'll do is work across, and I would suggest printing this off in color, and you can even use some of that highlighter tape and, you know, just tape over that section you're not working with, or put a paper here and then say, okay, I'm working on this panel. When you're done, you could just check it off that you did that panel and then pick up the highlighter tape and move it over and do these. So you're going to start on the very bottom square. You can start over here, you can start over there, it doesn't matter, but you're going to work with just a column at a time. So you'll do these 4, and then you'll do these 4, and then these 4, and you get the idea. Okay. They're harder to see on here, but look, if I zoom in, you can tell that's the orange and that's the red. So when you see it in person, you'll be able to tell. Okay. And so they're calling this the center 4 panels. Okay. So using the back layout chart as a stitch guide, complete the center 4 panels as follows. I think they mean these center 4 here. Okay. And it says complete 3 14-centimeter stitch sections of one of the center panels. That's these center panels, and they mean 3 of them. So you do 1, 2, 3, and then they're going to be, it says, then work the 4th, sorry, you're going to complete 3 of them, and they're going to be 14 centimeters high. So your width earlier, we're talking about 5.5 inches. Now these are going to be 5.5 inches tall. Okay. So you'll work to 14 inches when you do these first 3, 1, 2, 3. And then here it says complete, then work the 4th stitch section to measure 12 centimeters. So it's going to be a little shorter. So that means that of these 4 panels in the middle, these top ones are going to be shorter. Does that make sense? And then cast off, and then repeat for the remaining 3 center panels. So that instruction was for this one and this one, this one, this one. Okay. And then left side panel. Okay. So we're still on the back, but left side panel is talking about this one right here. So this note here is for that one. Complete 3 14-centimeter stitch sections for the left back panel. And then it has shaping. Okay. So the top left one is burnt orange. So they're identifying that it's burnt orange. Using it, you're going to work 10 centimeters. So it's even shorter, ending on a right side row. And that's where putting a stitch marker in and locking it on the front is handy, because you know, okay, this is the right side. And then the next row after is the wrong side. And so you're going to cast off or bind off 9 stitches and knit to the end. So if you're crocheting, remember, you have 18 stitches, right? All you're doing is just read it as finish those first half of the stitches. So on crochet, you're only when you get to that next section, when you get to 4, okay, let me talk. So when you get to 10 and you're in the middle of the row, then you can start making it longer, because this one says knit a row. Oops. So you get to the middle, and when you're at 10, then you stop. Okay, sorry, I'm saying this weird. Okay, so on the crochet, you can slip to the middle in order to make one side longer. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. So you would, for knitting, you would stop and work and do the instructions this way. But if you're crocheting, you're just going to slip your stitches over, and we have videos that show slip stitching, and you'll see me do that later on this video. So you'll kind of slip to the end. It doesn't add any height, and then you're going to finish out this row and make it a little taller, and then you complete that row. So for the knitters, you just knit the rest of that row, and then you're going to bind off the remaining stitches. And so you're just going to have a little bit of a step. That's all it's creating. It's just a step. So it's mostly, it's 10. So when we come up to here, imagine, see, these squares look all the same height. In actuality, these are 12 inches in the middle of the 4, and then these are like 10, and they step down. So there's going to be a little stair step, and then it goes to here, and then it steps down. So now we're going to show the right side panel, and look, it says you shape it on the green and you do it the opposite way. Does that make sense? It will once you get started. So, and then come over here, and the left front, using the left front chart as a stitch guide, complete the center panel as follows. And it's talking about here, and the center panel is just this one. And then there's instructions for the left side and then the right side. And you just kind of follow those. And when it talks about stitch numbers and you're a crocheter, just see what that means. for you, and kind of work it that way. So the left front shoulder, you work 10 centimeters and do basically what you had done before, and then the center has those stitch sections, and then you have shaped the left front neck using the burnt orange, and it says work 5 centimeters in garter stitch, ending on a right side row, and then on the next row cast off 2 stitches. So if you're crocheting, you're just going to slip across 2, and then you're going to work a whole row to the end. And then when you get on the next row, you're going to work your stitches to the last 2 stitches, and then work them together. So we can show working them together with basically you can stop at the end on crochet, and then on knitting you knit those 2 stitches together. You just put your needle through both stitches at the same time and work them together, and then the next row you're working those first 2 stitches together again, and then knit to the end. It's just decreasing it. And then the last 2 rows you knit until half those original stitches are left. So 9 stitches remain. And then you just work straight until you get to 12 centimeters and bind off. So this is the knit. Yeah, so Franca is saying there's in our knit and crochet pattern. There is only a knit pattern, but a lot of people are trying to crochet it. And so you have to kind of follow along and just sort of do what you can for the crochet one, sort of just working with the numbers and making your way to kind of give it a shape. What's happening is this is the neck, and so it's just trying to make a little bit of a slope. So when you add on your collar, it'll be crocheted right up to it. The good news is this part that you're doing right here, if it's just a little bit rough, it's going to be hidden because you're going to put on a collar, and the collar is, I think that area is a 1x1 ribbing, and an edge will get sewn up to it, and then it flips over and it hides that, but at least you'll have it reduced or decreased in stitches. Okay. Let's see. That is that. Oh, and here's the color blip thing I was going to show you. If you change your colors on the wrong side row and you knit across, it's going to put these colors on top, and you may not necessarily want that. Now, this little edge right here, what this is there's a band that's ribbing that gets added on to the edge of all these panels. And the way they added it was this slip stitch crochet that goes across it instead of a regular seam. And it shows, I'm not a fan, but it's that deconstructed, reconstructed look. And that's what they chose to do. You can choose to do that, or you can choose to just sew it up. And then this blue that goes across, that's that button band. And you can see that it's stitched on there without any extra flare of color. So they've made different choices. You make your choice of what you want to do. Again, and you can choose to use completely different colors if you want. Without going into all of it, because I can drag this on forever, the right front panel is basically doing the opposite, and you just follow that in the instructions now that you know kind of how to work your way through the instructions. And of course, you're going to want to rewind this video and pause on those parts to get the explanation. Then you're going to come down to sleeves, and there's a chart for the sleeves. And using the chart as a guide, you're going to work the 4 panels, 3 stitch squares in each. So boom, boom, boom. There's nothing different about these. They're all the same, and they're all 14 centimeters by 14 centimeters. So those are pretty easy. And then the collar. Okay, so the collar is where you're making them with smaller needles, and you're using that red Aran yarn, the smaller, thinner yarn, and you're casting on 119 stitches, and you're working 18 centimeters in a knit 1, purl 1 rib. Okay, so for needle knitters, you are getting your needles, and you're knitting a row, purling a row, and you're making those columns, and casting off loosely, and then what's going to happen is you're sewing that around the neck. For crocheters, let me just put this in perspective. So they're going to be making these columns, and their stitches all cast on like this, and they're given the number that they need. Okay, the 119 stitches, and they're adding it onto their needles. But for crocheters, you actually make it turn sideways, and so I think it's a little bit easier to do this one, and you're kind of guaranteed you'll make it to the right length. It says work 18 centimeters. So what you need to do is make a chain that's 18 centimeters, because you're going to be working back and forth on what they will be knitting the length. You're going to be working back and forth this way, and then you're going to work until you get the right collar length that's going to go around the, let's go right here. It's going to go around the front panel. Okay, it's going to around the front panel. It's going to go around the back edge here, and then the other front panel. And so this is the collar that you're making right here. So you're going to be casting on these stitches here, and then crocheting until you get the length, and your length is going all the way around here, and then it'll get sewn on. Does that make sense? So I think that's what's cool about the crochet, and I'm going to show you how to do that here in a moment. And then the back rib, you're using those same needles again and the smaller weight yarn, and that's this stuff. Okay, and it's saying that you're going to cast on 82 stitches and work 7 centimeters in a 2x2 rib, a knit 2 purl 2 rib. Okay, and that's that back panel. And then you're going to cut it off and knit it loosely. Okay, same thing for the crocheters. You're going to chain until you get a 7 centimeter chain, and I'll go over if you need to add an extra stitch or not to that. But you're going to be working a 2x2, and this is a yellow version of my 2x2. Sorry, let me move this around. So you're going to be working and getting this look. Okay, knit 2 purl 2, and you're going to be doing 7 centimeters wide, and then working it until you get to the length that goes around the back, and then it's going to be sewn into the back. Then the front, these are going into the 2 front panels. That's why it says make 2. For needles, you're going to use that same yarn, and you're going to cast on 94 stitches and work that 7 centimeters in the same ribbing that you did for the back. And then cut yarn, because you're going to be sewing it in. And same thing for the crocheters. You're going to just do exactly what you did here, and it's going to be the same width as the front panel. Okay, so what's happening is down here for either one, you're making this part separate. So you're going to have a piece here, a piece for here, and then the piece that goes in the back, and then they're going to get attached to the panels that you already did. But you haven't sewn your panels up yet together, so you can't exactly add it to that yet. Okay, does that make sense? All right. And then we've got the cuffs. Same thing. You're going to be working the cuffs in the smaller needles, in the red Aran yarn, casting on 110 stitches, or for crocheters doing the 7 centimeters. It's also a knit 2 purl 2 rib. If you like the 1x1 rib, I mean, to me, I like this ribbing. For my cuff on my sleeve, I like this better than this, but it's whatever you want to do. If you want to change it up, and then cast off loosely if you're knitting, and then cut the yarn and use that for sewing later. Okay, so this is how the cardigan is going to work up. It's, it's a looser knit. Okay, here's a better view of that collar. Okay, and then here is, I think, am I on the last page? No. Okay, buttonhole band. This one's where you're going to work with the smaller needles, but that same blue that was listed. So I believe it's still that super bulky weight yarn, and you're going to cast on 6 stitches. Now, you can go through this right here. I think this is very confusing that the way they did this. You can totally do this in a garter stitch. See that? It kind of has a look of a little bit of like a moss stitch almost. But this is what it is. It says row 1, and every right side row you're going to knit 5 and purl 1, and then row 2 you're going to knit 1 and knit 1 below, and then do that again, and then do 2 knits, and then row 3, of course, you're going to repeat what they did before. Knit 5, purl 1, row 4, make a buttonhole. So the way you make a buttonhole, you have to work 2 stitches together to reduce that number, and then you're going to put your yarn forward on the needle, which basically makes a yarn over. That's what that is. So it decreases the stitches, and then it does an increase with a yarn over, and then you're going to knit 1 below, and then knit 1, and then whoops, row 6. So if you decide, oh, I'm just going to do garter stitch, you can totally do that. It's just that follow row 4 to do that, and then just use a knit here instead of a knit 1 below, and then that's a yarn over. And then row 6, same thing that we did before. Knit 1, knit 1 below, knit 1, knit 1 below, and then knit 2. And then here's a special note for the second knit 1 below needle is inserted into the buttonhole space. So it's saying when you're doing this twice, the second time you do the knit 1 below, you're going to put it into that space that was created in the buttonhole hole row before. That was odd to say. And then, of course, remember, you're missing row 7 because it's part of this up here. So always remember every other row is like this. So if you're new to patterns and you're wondering why it's skipping rows, it's because it referred to it up here. And then row 8, knit 2, and then repeat the knit 1 below and knit 1 twice. Do that there. Row 10, knit 1 below twice, knit 2. Okay, hang on, I gotta get some water. Oh my gosh. Okay, and then you're going to repeat just the rows 7 through 10. So 7 being this one up here, knit 5, purl 1, and then 8, do that row 1 again, and then 10 until 9 centimeters have been worked, okay, from that last buttonhole, and then end with a row 7, and then work rows 4 through 7 once more for the buttonhole. So you're repeating that back and forth. So you're going to work a little bit, make a buttonhole, work a little bit more until you get to the next buttonhole, and you're just going to keep repeating that. So let's come over here. So you're going to repeat these sections that have a double asterisk to double asterisk until 6 buttonholes have been completed. The buttonhole band should measure 55 centimeters and cast off. So this little section that has a double asterisk right here to here, that's the part that you're repeating. So you repeat these instructions, follow those instructions, which also refer to these instructions, until you get to 55 centimeters. The other way to do it is you can, if you want to make a button band that doesn't actually button, or you can kind of figure out where you want those placed on your own. You can just make a garter stitch or something similar, and then work those in yourself. This one's very specific on buttonholes, but a lot of people are not even using these to button up, and that's why I'm saying you could just sew them on. And yeah, so button band, and then when you use 5.5 millimeter needles and blue, cast on 6 stitches, 1 row. That's where the actual buttons go, and then it's just giving you the main pattern. So you can also just make 2 of these button bands and not worry about all these instructions up here. Does that make sense? So this is the pattern as they have it written. This is just the, so this is the buttonhole side, and then this one is the button band. So this one has no holes, this one has holes. Does that make sense? Okay, I know. That's a lot of information. Okay, to make up, this means like to finish it up, to sew it up, okay? You're gonna join the panels using all that extra yarn that matches this, because it's smaller. Lay the panels in order. You're going to pull the tails through the right side of the work, and just follow these instructions on joining. I kind of already told you where those will happen, so I'm not going to necessarily go through all of those. One of the last things to happen is going all the way down to inserting the sleeves, and then making the tassels. That's those extra little pieces that are kind of flared out with the knots. On the right side of the cardigan, tie all the tail ends together at points where stitches change. Trim to 3 centimeters, and that's it. So that is the cardigan. And if you want to know how to make solids with the half double crochet, I can show you that now, and then I can also show you how to do the ribbing and these other ones. So I'm going to get out my notes for that here in a second. Let me see if I have any questions. That was a lot. That was about an hour before I get to the actual crochet tutorial. Franca says, I'm no good with math. Another thing that fills me with dread. Yeah, so you just want to get yourself and I don't have one in front of me. You want to get yourself a ruler and measure out if you're no good with that. Once you figure out the centimeters, like you can even have one that where you turn it over, it has centimeters in the back. I've seen other people do it to where they've taken a piece of paper, so they cut the lengths that they needed and they wrote, this is the ribbing, or this is the width of the square, this is the height of the square, and then they just cut it to the piece that they needed and put that little card to the side. And that was another way that they could get what they needed out of that. So that was pretty cool. Let's see. I thought of Dolly Parton's song Coat of Many Colors when I saw the photo of the cardigan. Oh my gosh, absolutely. Okay. I think we're good on questions. So let me set this aside, and I have my notes for crocheting. That looks, I don't have this. I don't think we have this. Let me know, Joanne, but I have my notes for the crochet that looks like knitting to the side, but I don't know if we put that on the website yet. So I'm going to get some things in order. You're seeing me live, so just bear with me. Try and do this quick as I can. Okay. It's going to be a mess if I leave it all on here. Okay, so to get the crochet like this, the quick one, let me just show you. Okay, we put in the crochet notes. Oh, fantastic. Okay, so if you can read the crochet pattern stuff and you want to attempt those and have some notes, we've got those. Thank you so much, Joanne. Joanne works for GoodKnit Kisses and gets all of our blogs together. She's amazing. So so that's this one. Okay, let me put these aside so you can see the white in the middle. I think I'm gonna use this pink so you guys can see it easier. Okay. I have my red, but I think it's just too dark. Okay, so I'm using a super bulky weight 6 yarn, and I'm gonna do the solid square. Let's just start with the solid square. So if you're like, I want to do the solid square, let's do this. And I am, by the way, my half double crochet, my official directions for my lesson, I think it's lesson 2 for crochet, is half double crochet. I do it slightly different, but this one worked out really well with this yarn. So always follow the pattern directions for someone's the whole, if you chain 1 or chain 2 or work the first stitch or not, just follow those directions. Okay. I don't know if that made sense what I just said, but I am changing it up slightly. Okay. Ooh, I need to put some power in. Hold on, let me take my microphone out. I'm gonna plug this in. I just noticed I'm running low on power. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Get this cord out of my way. Sorry, y'all can't see what's happening here, but I gotta move some things around. All right, we're going to do your slip knot, however is easier for you. I just take the back loop over the front and the back loop up and over again and put it into my crochet hook. And now I'm going to chain, let's see, we're chaining 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, I'm just going to do 8 for now, but 14 is what you would do to make this width here, okay? And then HDC in the 3rd chain from the hook in the back loop. So we're going to yarn over, 3rd chain from the hook. So we're not counting the one on the hook. We're going to go 1, 2, 3. So we're skipping 2, go into that top loop, and yarn over and pull through a loop. And now you have 3 on your hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. See how it's a nice big stitch? All right, so we're going to do that again. We're going to yarn over, and now we just go to the next loop. Go through that loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops. So if you have been doing the single crochet, you'll see how big and fast this works up. It's like a stitch and a half of the single crochet. So yarn over, go through a loop. Sorry, this yarn split on me. Go through that loop, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3, yarn over, go in the stitch and the chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 3. I'm just trying to get to the end of this row here. All the way down. And we're on the last one. Again, you're going to do 14. I just did 8. Okay, pull through all 3. Okay, so now we have 1 row done of the half double crochet, and then we're going to chain 1, and this is not going to count as a stitch, and turn. So I've done some where I chain 2 and then I skipped a stitch and it counted as a stitch. We're not going to do that, okay? We're going to yarn over, and this will have a nice even edge. We're going to go into that first stitch right there and yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through and half double crochet. Yarn over, go into the stitch. Now when I say go into the stitch, we're going into that top loop where that V-shaped stitch is, that chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through for half double crochet. See how fast that's working up? So let me just go on across and continue. There we go. It's a splitty yarn, sorry. Okay. And then this very last one, make sure we're going through both those loops, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through. You can see how fast that worked up. So in order to end it, we pull up another loop and we can continue. So if we were going to change colors, let me back off 1 stitch, and I'm going to show you with the red. Okay, so once you've got your 14 stitches, you're going to measure that up, make sure you've got the right length, okay, or not 14 stitches, 14 centimeters. I did 10 rows, so this is 10 rows for me, and that got me to the right size. So when you're ready to finish, you're going to, for the last stitch, yarn over, go into that last stitch, okay, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then stop, drop your yarn, grab the next yarn, and you're going to pull through a loop with the next yarn. So put it over your hook, pull through, and then drop that tail. We're going to yarn over and pull up a loop to chain 1, and then we turn. And we've successfully changed our yarn. Now you can do one of 2 things. You can cut this yarn and leave that tail, and then use that for, you know, sewing in later, or you can grab those tails and put them at the top here, And when you work, we're going to yarn over here, and then you can let them be on top of these stitches as you go in. So if I go into this first loop here and I pull through my new color, pull up a loop and yarn over, you can see that these yarns are going to get locked in. I'm going to pull that on through, and I like to kind of twist it and make sure that the lighter yarn of my first yarn is on bottom, and then the darker one is on top, or the new one yarn is on top. Okay, yarn over, go through the next stitch, pull through, make sure I'm going around, and go through, and you can see changing that. And so that's how I got this here. I know that's a quick one. You can go back and use those controls and slow it down, rewind, whatever you need to do. So there you go. That's making the half double crochet for your stuff. Okay. So now I'm going to do the 1x1 ribbing. I think someone made a comment, so I want to make sure that I'm answering questions. Oh, hey, Gayla. I see you jumping on. Hey, Lori. Welcome, welcome. You're from the UK, so converting crochet stitches? Okay. Well, because this is not in crochet, just do what I do. Whatever you guys say there is fine. Whatever you call it, just do the yarn overs and stuff and pull through the way I did it there. Sorry, I gotta crack my knuckles. Sorry, guys. Okay, I've been talking for a while and moving those hands. Okay. Let's do the 1x1, the knit one, purl one. Okay, so I'm looking at my mock crochet ribbing. You're going to work with whatever hook and yarn. You can use this on anything. You're going to chain the desired length of the ribs, and then you're going to chain one to make a turning chain. So let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll just do 8. I don't know why I liked 8 today, but that's what we're doing. So let's say that this is the width that we want to get. Okay, I'm basing it on like this one. Here's another version. This is what it looks like in the super bulky weight. See that? So you're going to crochet the length that you want here. If you need 7 centimeters, then you're going to make a chain that is 7 centimeters. Don't pull it. Just have it nice and relaxed. And you can, like I said, you can cut a piece of paper to the length that you need. Okay, so now we want to chain 1. That's going to be our turning chain. Okay, so that's not part of the length of the ribs. And then row 1, we're going to slip stitch in the second chain from the hook in the back loop. So second chain from the hook, we're going to go 1, 2. So we're going to go into that top loop, which is the back loop. We're going to yarn over and bring up a loop. Okay, and then we're going to slip through that loop to this one here. We're not going to yarn over again and do, another stitch or anything. So we're just slipping it. Okay, then we're going to go into the next one. We're going to go into that next back loop, yarn over, pull up that loop, and slip that loop over. Okay, keep going. Go into the loop, pull up a loop, slip over, into the loop, pull up a loop, slip over, keep it nice and loose, into the loop, pull up a loop, slip over, into the loop, pull up a loop, slip over. Repeating that across to the very last stitch. Make sure you have plenty of yarn that's nice and loose. Okay, and let me look over my directions, make sure I've got everything. And then we're going to repeat row 1 until the desired length. So, and then we're going to, we got to chain 1 and turn. So I think I may have missed that direction. Joanne will probably have to add that chain 1 at the end of row 1. Okay, so now we are on the other side here, but before we do, let me go back over here. So see all these chains here, the V stitches lining up? Okay, this loop right here is where we're going to go into. Okay, so this on the other side is going to be the actual back loop right here. okay? And then this one right here, so when we turn around, this one is the front loop. So we have a front loop and we have a back loop. But when I turn around like here, you're gonna see it looks like there's another set of loops. Okay, I'm looking at the top here, but when I naturally flip it over, you can see these, which can be confusing. You could be like, that's the front, that's the back loop. No, this is the row below. This is the front loop, and the back loop is actually back here. So we've already chained one, and so now I'm gonna go into this one here. Boop. It's a little harder at first. Once you get a couple stitches in, it's fine. Pull up a loop and slip that through. Go into the next one, pull up a loop, slip it on through, and now you can see that it's a little bit easier to see and go through. Well, once you actually do it, you can see that. And just slip it across. Whoop, picking up another stitch below that. Okay, keep going. After you get a few rows of this down, then you really start to see that pattern emerge. It's a little confusing with just a couple of rows in the beginning, so wait until you have a few before you just put this down. Otherwise, it'll be confusing when you pick it up. Okay, so I got to the end. We want to chain one and turn. Okay, and then we want to find that back loop, so I'm going to rotate it so I can see the top of this. And we're going to go into that first stitch, pull up a loop, and slip over. So let me just continue this. You want to make sure and get all of them. When you get to the end here, it's real tempting to not get that last stitch. Make sure you're really looking, because that last one can be a bit of a doozy. And pull up. Okay, so chain one and turn. And now you can start seeing these ribs form. This looks like a nice knit rib. And then back here, if you look at this edge, it kind of looks like purl bumps, like in knitting. But when we start working these stitches again, right here, when we start working these, it starts forcing the stitches to kind of take on a new shape. So by working in the back loop only, it's pushing every other row forward and back, and tilting those stitches. You know, because when you make a chain, it has 3 stitches on it, it has 3 bumps, and it looks like a chain in 2 different directions. So you're forcing those chains across differently. There's that last stitch. Sometimes I use my finger as a guide there. Okay, so you can see it's now got a ribbed row look here and right here, and on the back it's just got the one here because we haven't pushed it over yet. Cool, right? And it's stretchy. Whee! Let's see your comments. Just printed off the pattern 3 days ago with the dream of actually trying to do it. Cool, Leslie. Well, if I didn't add that extra chain one, make sure and put that on there. I wrote these directions up and gave them to Joanne, so it's my fault if it's not on there. All right, hold on. I got to get me some water because it's a lot of talking. Hold on. Okay. Does that make sense? Does everybody get how that works, the 1x1 ribbing? Okay. The 2x2 ribbing is a bit different. And before I actually do it, I want to show you the mock garter, which looks like this. The mock garter, remember I was showing you one of them had that kind of purl row. So the difference in them, and you can start from the beginning like I did, make your length and add one for turning chain. Okay, and then you slip stitch across the back loop all stitches. Okay, and then when you turn, you're going to do that turning chain, which of course I didn't add in there. So that needs to be added. But instead of going only through the back loop, you make a row 1 through the front loop, and then when you turn, I'm sorry, you go row 1 through the back loop, and then when you turn, you're going to go through the front loop. So I'm just going to continue on this sample. You would normally start this from the very, very beginning. You do your chain across, chain 1, do your row working through the back loop only, and then the next row, it's a 2-row repeat, you're going to go through the front. Okay, so you have the front right here, and you're going to go through this one. Sorry, I got low battery on my directions over here. Hold on. All these alerts are coming up on here. Okay. So you're going to go through this next one. You're going to go up through the front loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, and slip. Go through the next one, the front loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, and slip, and just go across all of them like that. I don't always have to use my finger. I guess I just got really tight on here. I do that when I'm live. I tend to like work tighter. Okay, so I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and then I'm going to chain and turn. And then, so I just did a front, so now I need to do a back. So I'm going to go into this back loop here and do what I did before. So once you've established a pattern of this, the garter stitch, you're just going back and forth, front, back, front, back. But if you put it down, you may not remember, did I do a front or a back last time? So what I noticed is I was like, well, if I'm on the front one time, when I go to the back, it's technically always the loop that's on that side. And so I actually put a stitch marker on the front side, which is the one where I'm saying front loop. And then I always just made sure I was going in the loop towards the direction of the stitch marker. And that was easier for me to think of. So then when I chain and turn, you can see how there's that, there's a little bit more of a spacing here now. And you can see this sort of purl look here. And then now I'm going into the front loop. I'm going to go here. I think earlier I actually went in that first stitch by mistake, and I shouldn't have. So you're skipping that chain stitch, and you're going to go in to this one here. So I should not have done that earlier if somebody caught that mistake. I don't know what I was thinking. So we're just going to go in the first stitch, not the chain, and go across. And after I do this row, you'll be able to see the pattern emerge a little bit more. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Did y'all hear my tummy? And there's that stitch is this one here. That's the end one. So that's why I thought I was counting them, because I thought, I think I have one more stitch to do. It shouldn't be this tight. It's because I messed up the last row. Okay. Okay. Now, so that now has a ribbed look. See that? It looks like a row of pearls. And then there's that spacing. And then there's that other rib. And then that spacing. Okay. So this is what I was talking about. So see, it makes it look like this. Here's a close-up. Sorry, I was too far away. So it looks like, now remember, I did a 1 by 1, so disregard what's below where my thumbs are. You can see that ribbed row, that you can see that it looks like a purl row, and then you have a space in between, and then you have this other purl row here. And then when you do the next row, it will give another spacing just like this between here and the next one. And on the back, it's flat. But pay no attention to down here. This was that ribbing, but it's got a flat profile. So let's look at this one. This is what it looks like. It looks like purl stitches. In the back, it's not reversible. It's just very dense looking. See what the stitches look like? So countered with, this is what the 1 by 1 ribbing looks like. It actually does look like knit stitches. Of course, it was worked side by side, side to side. Okay. So when you're working the garter stitch one, you're going to work the width that you want that button band. So it only needs, I forget the number, but it doesn't need very much for the button band. And then you just work those rows like that. It's actually pretty simple. Okay. And then, so that one's that one. Let me see if there's any questions on that. You're knitting the cardigan like crazy. Love the rib. Looks like teeth. Yeah. Leslie, there's more stuff in the beginning, obviously. And then we do have links down below to the chain. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut this one because the 2 by 2 is going to be confusing if I do this on the same sample. So, all right, so there's that. And now we're going to do this one. And I think I just dropped my yellow sample. Hold on. Okay, here it is. So if you want to do the 2 by 2, you can you definitely want to look at the directions that we have on the website. It is going to be a 4-row repeat. Okay. So you're going to get the chain that you want for the length or the width that you want to work. So if you have to do that 10 centimeter or whatever that was, or 7, that's fine. I'm going to go with 8 again, just for these purposes of demonstration. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. All right, so for this one, I'm looking at these notes here. So we've got chain to the desired length of ribs, and then you're going to turn one, chain 1 for turning chain. And so that was 8, so we're going to do a turning chain, okay? And then we want to do something called a yarn over slip stitch in the second chain from the hook in the back loop. So make sure you guys can see this. Let's see if I can get this close enough. So we're going to go to the second chain from the hook. So not this chain on the hook. Okay, 1, 2. So we're going to the second, go right into the back loop there. And we're going to yarn over. And this yarn over loop is going to be the loop that remains. So you're going to have to use your fingers on this one, but you actually pull through and slip through both stitches. 1, 2. Okay, I made it look easy. It was not as easy the first several times I did this thing. And I may struggle here in a moment, but because I haven't done it in about a week or so. Where's she from? I'm from Texas. Let's see. So we're going to repeat that across. So we're going to yarn over slip stitch across all the stitches. So we're just going to go right into the next one and pull through 1, 2. This is not a half double crochet. You do not finish it out like a half double crochet. Pull through and go through all of them, slipping both through. So yarn over, slip stitch, yarn over the hook, go into the back loop, pull up a yarn, and pull through both stitches. Yarn over, go through the loop, pull up a loop, slip through both. All the way across, and then we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to turn, and we're going to do the same thing that we just did. Okay, so make sure to look at the top, rotate it to look at the top. This is very important on this one, okay? So because remember we said we have one bump in the back, one bump in the front, and then there's this one below in the front. Okay, we will work with this stitch on this one, okay? So right now we're going to go into here, we're going to go to the stitch, not the chain. We're going to go into the back, do just what we did before. Whoops, sorry. And then I didn't do what I did before. Yarn over, slip through that stitch, pull up a loop, and slip it through both. Okay, yarn over, go through that back loop, yarn over, and slip through both. Yarn over, back loop, pull up a loop, slip through both, yarn over, back loop, slip through both, continue across, okay, so this is row 2. And this last loop, I have to really twist it because it makes you want to miss it. Okay. And go through. Okay. Now, I said as row 2, technically, this is where I'm going to tell you a little bit different. So technically, the foundation row is doing that, and then you have to do row 1 and 2. So you do row and 2, and that's what they look like, but technically the foundation row looks exactly the same. So what we actually did was foundation row 1 and then the row 1 itself. So we did foundation, row 1. I actually need to do this one more time. It's the only time you do it the same thing in the back loop 3 times. Okay, three rows in a row, because then we'll change it up. So yarn over, go through the back loop. This is technically the start of row 2. So I'll just go across, and then we'll get to row 3 and 4. Oops. Sorry, I'm all over the map. I'm looking around my camera. I'm probably not close enough. Come on. It's that last stitch. The last stitch is a little bit of a doozy. Okay, slipping through those stitches. All right, so we've officially started off kind of like we did on the 1 by 1, but you have that extra yarn, and it looks a little bit long right here. These stitches are going to be a little bit bulkier. Okay, and so now we're going to chain 1, and we're going to start on row 3. So turn. Now the top of it is those 2, the front loop and the back loop. Go ahead and yarn over. We're going to go into the first stitch, but we're going to go into the bottom front loop. So we're actually going to go into this loop right here. So there's the back loop, the front loop, then we're going to go to the bottom loop. It's the 3rd one. So go up under this little guy, yarn over, pull through both. What size is my hook? This is an 8mm hook, and I'm working with a super bulky 6-weight yarn. Yarn over. Okay, now you can see where that's pulling. So you can actually start to go through these stitches a little bit easier. So it's angled a little bit higher up. It kind of pulls. So we go into that loop. That's the bottom front loop of that 3rd loop down there, and pull through, yarn over, go into that loop, yarn over, go through, slipping both. This hook is from Furls. You know what? I don't think I put a link for Furls in there, but I am an affiliate, so it does help support GoodKnit Kisses if you do use our link. Joanne maybe if she's still here, she could provide that. But yeah, I use the Odyssey hook. It is a heavier weighted hook, but I like the balance in it. And they have these streamlined ones that you can get. They're actually pretty great on price, and they look like this, but they're wood. So they have a version that looks like it that's all wood. I'm actually gonna purchase some pretty soon. Okay, pull up a loop and go through. Okay, so do I have all my stitches? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I need one more or I'm gonna have a problem. So that last one, like I said, is a doozy, and it looks a little bit different at the end. So it's kind of really forward here, or well, tilted back. So we're gonna just go right up in there. Once you establish the pattern, it's much easier to see after several rows. Okay, now I've got all my stitches. Okay, no, it doesn't matter if you have a plastic hook, Katrina, is that right? Anyway, go ahead and chain 1, and then we're going to turn, and we're going to repeat row 3 again. So yarn over. Remember, don't do that first that first stitch here, because that's the chain. And we're going to go into the front of this loop here, but it's the bottom one. Yarn over, slip through both, yarn over, and you can see how it's kind of tilting now, and you can see it a little bit easier, and you can get in your hook actually easier now once you get past that first one. So there's 2, go through 3, 4, 5, 6, whoop, 7, and 8. Don't forget that last one. We don't want any jagged ridges. Whoop. Okay, sorry. Like I said, so sometimes it is weird. Okay, and then chain. So making sure to get that last one in there so it lines up correctly. But look at that. You have 2 columns of what looks like knit stitches. Isn't that cool? And then the other side just looks the opposite. Look at that. So it looks like we have kind of 1 1/2, kind of like a slip stitch would look, you know, and then they have these 2 right here. Okay, and then you just repeat those rows, working in the back loop twice, and then working in the front loop or front bottom loop twice, repeating those 4 stitches until you're ready to stop. So until you get the length that you need this way, and of course your width of your ribbing is going to be what you established from the beginning. So I think that I covered everything, you guys. The 1x1, we're just calling it a mock knit 1x1 ribbing. The crochet mock 2x2 ribbing was the one we just did. The garter is called a purl slip stitch. Okay, the crochet mock garter. And then we did the solid square with the half double crochet. So, and then I showed you how to change color. So be sure and rewind and get those if you need them. And I am just thrilled that you guys hung out with me today and learned how to do some of these things. I'm going to check out your questions. I'm about to end it, but I want to make sure I've got any questions. If you have any more questions, be sure. I'm going to stick around here for a minute. See if I can answer anything. Is she Italian? Where's she from? You guys, are you talking about me? Oh my gosh, y'all are hilarious. Let's see, love that hook. Oh, Joanne's still here. Hi, Joe. Plastic hook doesn't matter. Use what hook you like. Thanks to my VIPs. They're the ones that have the fun little icons on there. Thank you so much. They really support GoodKnit Kisses, and they support having captions on our videos, although we don't have one on the live videos. I just am not able to do that. Yeah, the Furls hook link is down below, and we'll add that into the description as well later on. Yeah, that's it. Texas, baby. I heard you. Yeah, I'm a Texas girl, but I don't always have my accent going. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed yourself. I did too. That was a super long broadcast. I have never gone that long before, I don't think. So thank you so much for joining with me today. I really just enjoyed it. Yeah, Franca, yeah, not her price range on the furls. Absolutely. Look at the streamline hooks though. They have some that are more affordable than that are in the wood. I'm trying to find my other hook. Here's another one. The wood ones are kind of similar to this, except they're actually the ones I'm saying, they have ones that have the same thing, and these are way more expensive. I think the other wood ones are like $16 US, but they're nice and lightweight. But yeah, I hope you guys all have a great day, and let me know if you knit this, crochet this, or loom knit it. Wonderful, wonderful day. I hope you stitch your love and love your stitches. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye. I said bye, but I can't figure out how to turn this off on mobile. Y'all, I can't get it to turn off. Seriously. Okay, it's not doing it. Oh, good gracious. All right, here we go. Y'all have a great day. Bye, everyone.